listening to the Esq.Marketing podcast, hosted by Matthew Lauren, president of Esq.Marketing, where he features successful solo and SMB law firms from all over the United States. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hey, Matthew Lauren here, president of Esq.Marketing, and you're listening to the Esq.Marketing podcast, where I feature successful solo and SMB law firms all over the United States. This episode is brought to you by Esq.Marketing. We help law firms generate more clients and cases using search engine optimization. And speaking of successful law firms, our guest today is Michael Sachs, Director of Communications and Client Services at Kimmel Silverman, PC. For the past 2 decades, Michael has successfully converted a small boutique consumer protection law firm into one of the nation's most recognizable lemon law firms. Under his guidance, the firm has won multiple awards, been featured on local and national media broadcasts, and helped many thousands of consumers with their various lemon law issues. Michael, it's an honor to have you on the show.
Well, thank you, Matt. I'm happy to be here.
That's great. We've had a lot of attorney guests on the show, but never someone of your caliber where you guys have had such success dealing with so many consumers over the United States. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you.
I think a lot of people in general are familiar with what attorneys in different practice areas do, but I don't think a lot of people are really familiar with consumer protection laws and lemon laws. Can you explain what you guys do at Kimmel Silverman?
Well, Kimmel Silverman is the oldest, largest, and by far most successful lemon law firm in the Northeast. And when you talk about lemon laws, there are lemon laws in all 50 states. Lemon laws protect consumers who have defective vehicles, where the vehicles have been back again and again and again for the same problem, or maybe an extended period of time for any number of problems. Every state has a law, and then there's a federal law, which is called the Magnus and Moss Warranty Act. The Magnus and Moss Warranty Act also protects consumers who have vehicles with warranties and are back repeatedly for the same issue. The beautiful thing about these laws is these laws have what is called a fee-shifting provision. That means if you prevail, attorney's fees and legal costs are covered on top of your recourse or as part of any settlement provided. We take it a step further. If we take your claim, win or lose, there is absolutely no cost. So now consumers can change the landscape from David versus Goliath, going after that billion-dollar car company on their own, and now they have Goliath versus Goliath. They have an experienced law firm that's been around for 30 years, experience with every make and model, an in-house ASE certified expert team, all ready to take this all the way to court if need be. We have the ammunition needed to go into battle, and we do it completely cost-free to the consumer.
That's crazy. I did not know that. So it's completely risk-free to anyone who calls you if they have a lemon law issue.
No cost, no risk, no question is too silly. You call in, you give us your year, make, and model, you explain the situation, we ask you a series of questions, and then we can tell you right away if you have a claim under either state lemon law or the federal warranty laws. And then we can tell you about potential outcomes and the process. Many of our claims are successfully resolved within a matter of months, sometimes within a matter of weeks, with minimal participation on the client's end. And it's extremely satisfying, the number of reviews we have online across all different platforms from consumers we've helped. We've now helped over 100,000 drivers in our 30-year history, which is absolutely incredible and very gratifying to me and my bosses.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So I've checked you out online. I've seen your reviews. I've seen your website. You guys are obviously very successful at marketing the firm. Take me back to the beginning when you guys were first starting out. What was it like in those early days?
I actually learned about lemon law when I was involved with the lemon. I had a Jeep. It had a transmission issue. I was constantly stalling. I was in my early 20s. I was working in the city and stalling in the worst neighborhoods. And I'd go to the dealer and I'd say, my transmission isn't working. And they say, oh, son, you're not driving the Jeep correctly. I said, it's an automatic transmission. A monkey could drive this Jeep. I don't understand what you mean. And after about 4 or 5 times we investigated, determined there was a lemon law, and we were able to get it bought back under the lemon law. So we gave the vehicle back, and we got back all of our money.
Nice.
After that, I started working with Kimmel Silverman, and they wanted to promote a computer lemon law. And I was working for a boutique PR firm. They hired us to promote this computer lemon law, to work with the lobbyists, to explain how the bill works. The bill didn't go through, but it generated a tremendous amount of publicity for the firm. And the firm said, we really would love for you to start marketing our lemon law practice. And so the entire advertising agency was involved. My ad side was doing branding. I was doing PR. We were doing amazing work with local and national newscasts, public service announcements, phone banks, community workshops about lemon law. In late 90s, 99, I was getting the itch, starting to feel things out. And by April of 2000, I knew that this was going to be my last year in the agency. There were just things going on. I wanted to try something new, and I wanted to figure out what the next step was for me. And I confided in a few of my larger clients just to let them know that I would ensure that the agency would continue to run properly, their work would continue to be high quality, but I wanted them to know we had solid relationships. I wanted to be loyal to them, and I wanted them to still have faith in the agency because I believed in the agency even after I left. And I had explained this to Craig Kimmel, my boss, and one of the founding partners of Kimmel Silverman. And he shook his head and he said, well, I appreciate you telling me as long as you can assure that, things will still run nice and smoothly. I said, absolutely. Next thing I know, there's a FedEx envelope at my door and it's a job offer.
Nice.
And they wanted me to come over and take over all the communications and branding. And what was wonderful about this was that I was able to work an exit strategy out with the agency. So that Kimmel Silverman, their contract ended early, while simultaneously I was able to clean up everything at the agency. It worked out beautifully. The transition was perfect. So I came in and I now handled all the marketing, branding, and public relations. Now at that point, we were just operating in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. We have since spread out over the last 20 years into 15 different states. At that time, we had already lemonlaw.com, an outstanding URL, 1-800-LEMON-LAW, great phone number. But we were not branding them properly, at least in my opinion. I said to my bosses, listen, you need to put your egos aside. I know this is Kimmel and Silverman. I know your names are Kimmel and Silverman. I know you're proud of your efforts. But you own 1-800-LEMON-LAW. Let's brand that telephone number. Let's make sure everyone knows what 1-800-LEMON-LAW is, the oldest, largest, and most successful lemon law firm providing cost-free legal help to thousands of drivers. At that time, it was over 10,000 drivers. Now it's over 100,000 drivers. And thankfully, they listened. Thankfully, they said, you're right. Interestingly enough, we, a few years later, incorporated a jingle which was written by, at that time, our boss's 7-year-old daughter. Driving a lemon, make the call to 1-800-LEMON-LAW. I go all over the world. I've been in Disney and people have sang that song to me. I've been in airports and people have sang that song to me. People know the jingle. They know who we are. And that's the first step to really establishing the brand. And then we took that and we really continued with our public relations efforts. We wanted consumer reporters to know that we were the go-to for information about the automotive industry, automotive defects, and consumer rights surrounding automobiles. Not just lemon law, but dealer fraud as well. There was something called spot delivery, where dealers were essentially trying to sell you a vehicle. They'd successfully sell it, and then they tell you, wait a minute, you have to come back in and sign some new documents, and we need a couple thousand more. It's called yo-yo, bait and switch. We brought that to the table, and we made dealers accountable. We started some solid class action suits where we were not necessarily looking for consumers to get minor rewards. We were looking to change the way that cars were built. We partnered with the Center for Auto Safety to start promoting the Car Complaint Index. This is a list of vehicles that receive the most complaints to the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration per sales. And the first year that we started promoting this, the Mazda was #1 on the list, and we did all sorts of TV stories about it. Halfway through the year, Mazda sent us a certified letter, and they said, here are all the things that we've done to change our vehicle. We respectfully ask that you take us off the Car Complaint Index. I mean, tremendous PR for Mazda because we promoted that as well. But you could see the power of sharing consumer information. We wanted to become not only your source for representation, but your source for information and education. We wanted to empower the consumer all the way around. And that's how we've become truly as successful as we have.
That's an amazing story. Amazing. Yeah. And it's not only have you guys been really successful at growing the firm, but you've successfully pushed a lot of change. So that's great. I mean, consumers don't have to worry about a lot of stuff.
We successfully rewrote the Pennsylvania lemon law in 2001. Craig Kimmel, my boss, rewrote it to include leased vehicles and tighter title branding for used vehicles. We worked with ABC News on a BMW investigation where there was an issue with a high pressure fuel pump. And instead of people going through Lemon Law, they were literally taking these vehicles back under a trade assist program, marketing them as certified pre-owned vehicles, selling them at a premium, and not disclosing to the new consumer that the car had an ongoing problem. We've worked with numerous reporters on uncovering numerous issues over the years, and we've held the automotive industry accountable for their actions.
That's great. That's great. And during all that time, I'm assuming that, in the beginning there was a big focus on PR and media. At what point did you kind of shift and start putting more investment into the online marketing? Was there a moment where you're like, we need to focus more on this?
It was pretty quickly, especially when I took on the role full time. When I was working with the agency and my job was solely PR, I really didn't play a role in the content of the website. But when I joined the firm full time, obviously it was one of the objectives to really build our online presence. I mean, we had the solid URL. Back in those days, things were a lot easier. Google AdWords, you actually knew what you were bidding and knew where you placed. And it was very simple. If you wanted to have a lemon law firm and you wanted to rank high in Google, you put Auto Lemon Law, Pennsylvania Lemon Law, New Jersey Lemon Law, 1-800 Lemon Law, and that was your title. And you got high in the Google rankings because that's what your website was about. Things have changed. Things have become very more complex. But we have always known that the website was an opportunity, again, to educate and enlighten consumers. When you talk about being litigious, many people are very fearful of being litigious. The law is complex. It's dangerous. Lawyers don't necessarily always have the best reputation. People are afraid to work with lawyers. So we wanted to create an online space for information and education where consumers could find everything they're looking for. We have a chat function so that you can chat with people. We have numerous calls for action so that you can get in touch with us, but we have a lot of frequently asked question sections. We talk about your rights. We have an exclusive blog with thousands and thousands of comments, which illustrate that blogs are certainly alive. And when people have things they want to share, they share them. We have, I think, over 9,000 comments on our blog from consumers all across the country and beyond, internationally as well. So we wanted to find a place where people could find the information. And we really have succeeded in making lemonlaw.com an online destination for consumer information about vehicles.
Yeah, that's so awesome. It looks like it's a really great place for people to engage and share information. Throughout your tenure, what has been one of the biggest obstacles you've had to overcome to really realize the success that you've had today?
There have been quite a few. I mean, we dealt with crisis communication back in 2008. We had an attorney in Maryland who unfortunately had a health issue, mental health issue that impacted and affected our workload. It was unbeknownst to our bosses at the time until the S hit the fan, and sure. they took their punishment, and they made things right, and they learned from it. But we worked extensively with crisis communication. We had to deal with the reporters who were asking questions. We had to regain the public's trust, and immediately, I didn't even have to tell the bosses this. Number one, I said, you always have to comment. You always have to share your thoughts. And share your opinions. Be frank and honest. You have nothing to be afraid of. Share what you're thinking. And they did. And that worked in their favor. And then I said, I know you're going to do the right thing. And they said, we already have. There were maybe 15 cases impacted by it. They made them all right on their own, almost immediately. And the reporters took notice of this. The judges took notice of this. They knew that this was something that was beyond our control, but we made it right. And that was a difficult time back in 2008. We've been the victim of Black Hat. Black Hat, of course, is when there are people out there who do things to your website, trying to reduce your online presence. And there was someone that we went after, and we rightfully went after them. People needed help. They were being taken advantage of. We went after this company, and this company was not an ethical company, and they performed. And I've got to tell you, that was a very difficult time. Watching a website that I've built from the ground up, blood, sweat, and tears, and watching these rankings decline, and trying to work with partner after partner to fix them until finally we were able to do so. Regaining Google's trust and Google understanding we had absolutely nothing to do with it. We've seen copycats. I guess they say that Copycat is the biggest form of flattery, but to
Sure.
me, there's nothing worse, and I've seen it for the last decades, watching my competitor copy my efforts word for word for word. There's no reason for it, other than the fact that they know we're succeeding and they want to take my hard work and everything I've done and just claim it as their own. And that's extremely difficult. It's heartbreaking, but it happens. It happens in every marketing spectrum, and I guess people have to realize, marketers have to realize, you always have to stay ahead of the game. As great as your idea is now, you have to start thinking of your next great idea. You constantly need to find new partners to work with, great partners, talented partners, and you need to learn, not just tell them what to do, but hear what they need to do. You need to learn, you need to listen, you need to put your ego aside, because trust me when I say egos don't accomplish much.
That's so true. Yeah, and it's even in a competitive niche like the legal space, in your niche, and then also in other practice areas like personal injury. We see from time to time bad actors doing the black hat and doing other detrimental things to other firms, and it's unfortunate to see it sometimes. But it sounds like you've been able to overcome, which is really great, and it's neat to see you guys flourishing. My last question is, and I know this, not specifically to your guys' niche, but if there's a lawyer out there wanting to start a law firm, and what would you tell them is the one thing they should be focusing on, maybe in like the first year or the first year and a half of their firm, to get their name out there and build their web presence?
I've worked with many law firms in my career, very solid firms. And you have to first put together a list of your specialties, your niches, what separates you from the pack. And you really have to think about this. I worked for many years with a boutique firm in South Jersey, Flaster Greenberg, in the late 90s. And it was an opportunity. I handled all their public relations efforts. And they had an amazing firm, amazing attorneys, a variety of different specialties. But what they were doing differently is they were implementing job sharing in the legal community. And they were allowing working moms to split practices. And then they were taking another strategy where they were trying to get the best associates, but they were in Cherry Hill, suburb of New Jersey. They wanted the Philadelphia associates. So what did they do? They created 3 tiers of salary based on your billable hours. They said, we recognize quality of life is just as important as salary. These types of things separated them from the pack. There were tremendous law firms throughout the region, but they were taking a chance. They were doing something different. And then once you know what you're doing different, why you're doing it differently, and what you hope to accomplish in doing it differently, then you need to promote it online, speak to reporters, go to LinkedIn and post, use a blog, go to Facebook, go to Twitter, go into those uncomfortable regions. Listen, we're in Instagram. We're all over social media. I mean, we have thousands of likes on Facebook. I adore Facebook. It's a wonderful place. I tweet constantly. We're on LinkedIn, of course, but now we're on Instagram. Well, I'm in my mid-40s. I am certainly not your target demographic for Instagram, but you have to be there, because there's someone who is your target demographic that you're trying to approach who is there. So you have to learn, and you have to promote, and you have to teach folks why you're different and how your difference is going to significantly and successfully impact their need.
That's really, really great sage advice. Guys, we've been listening to Michael Sachs, Director of Communications and Client Services for Kimmel and Silverman PC, the lemon law lawyers. Michael, where can people go to learn about the firm and their rights as it relates to state lemon laws and federal warranty statutes?
We would love for them to visit us anytime at lemonlaw.com, lemonlaw.com. And again, driving a lemon, make the call to 1-800-LEMON-LAW, 1-800-LEMON-LAW, 1-800-536-6652. We continuously are growing into new states. We are now in California, in Texas, and Arizona. And if we can't help you in your state, rest assured I'll find someone who can. I also want to quickly talk about some new practice areas. Yeah. One that's not so new that we're very happy and successful in, and that is creditlaw.com, 1-800-NOT-FAIR. We work with TCPA and FDCPA, debt collection harassment. We go after those repetitive collection calls that you're receiving, or those collection texts, or those solicitation texts. Again, cost-free, 1-800-NOT-FAIR, and creditlaw.com. And right now, for the current quarantine we are in, If you are being denied a monetary refund for events canceled by COVID, or travel canceled by COVID, or camp or college canceled by COVID, log on to COVID-19refundclaims.com, COVID-19refundclaims.com. We are offering free legal help, not vouchers, not credits, money, monetary refunds, full monetary refunds. We're doing a number of news stories about that right now. COVID-19refundclaims.com. As my boss likes to say, we help real people with real problems, and we've been doing it for 30 years.
That's awesome. You guys are a champion of the people. Michael, it's so great to have you. I really appreciate all your advice and wisdom, and hope to have you on the show in the future.
Matt, it's always a pleasure, and thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the ESQ Marketing Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.